ابتهالي شاهد لي بافتقاري.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the Daily QA show, inshallah. My name is Mahmoud, and I'm your host today, inshallah. And today we'll be having Sheikh Wasim Kempson with us, inshallah. And just before we start and go back to Sheikh Wasim, let's first move on to, if you want to send us comments and questions, fill the questions in the comments below on the Facebook and YouTube page, or on Instagram. And those of you who want to send an email, you can also send an email to. SubhanAllah.
The last 10 is upon us already. SubhanAllah.
I was gonna say, how's obviously there's the obvious differences from Ramadan from previous years. How have you found this year different in a positive or even negative way?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's easy to pick some negatives, but I don't think it's really a time to be negative. I think try to think about a lot of positives, a lot of differences. Being home with family, I'm not going to give any new answers. I think a lot of the answers that people are mentioning is that they're spending time with their families, enjoying time, less pressures as well. With the school runs and things like that. Sometimes it's difficult if you're awake at night and you've got to take the kids to the school in the morning. I can't say I'm missing that. So yeah, alhamdulillah, it's all good. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, that's good, inshallah. I mean, we have a question that's come up already on YouTube. And maybe it's something you can start off with, like a little reminder. It says, can you give us advice on how to find Laylatul Qadr, such as signs like light rain and so forth, these kinds of signs? What would you say that people should do, inshallah?
Yeah, so I guess there's two approaches to this. Okay, there is the kind of textual approach where we will go through the evidences and how the Prophet ﷺ described what it would be like in the morning after, with the angels down and no bright rays of sun and so on and so forth. I mean, you could maybe guesstimate, maybe it was today, maybe it was yesterday, but the surest way of you praying and participating in Laylatul Qadr is that every single night you will do something and you won't miss out. So every night you will make some tarawih and qiyamul layl. Every night you're trying to give some charity. Every night you'll recite some Quran. And then when the day for Eid comes, you can say, Alhamdulillah, I stood in prayer for Laylatul Qadr. I gave charity on Laylatul Qadr and all of these things. I think it's the safest way. It's the safest approach for everybody, and that's just to do something every single night. If you want to put all your eggs in one basket and say, yes, the 27th, maybe yes, maybe no. Or you think it's the 21st, maybe yes, maybe no, but then you'll miss out. So the Prophet ﷺ would, spend the i'tikaf all the last 10 nights, wake his family up all the last 10 nights, strive every single one of those nights. And I think that's what's upon us really, inshallah ta'ala.
SubhanAllah, Jazakallah khair. I was going to say, follow up to that. I mean, there's a lot of questions which are all on this topic. Obviously, we're coming into the last 10 nights now. The question here says that why do some people seek Laylatul Qadr in the odd nights and others in all 10 nights? And I mean, you've alluded to the fact of doing, spend it going through most of the nights. But why would people why would people go for the non-odd nights or the even nights?
Yeah, so when working out the nights of Laylatul Qadr, I mean, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani mentions more than 40 different opinions as to when Laylatul Qadr may well be. Some of them are based upon very kind of weak evidences. Some of them a little bit stronger. We know the Prophet ﷺ said, seek them in the last 10. So that's something for sure for us. We know it's in the last 10. Likewise, in the odd nights. Now, if the month is, and in fact, some opinions that it changes every year. It's not the same night every year. It can change of the odd nights. There's another view, a very strong view as well. If the month is 29 or 30, depending on how many nights are left, you could see then that the odd could be even and the even could be odd if you count the other way as well. Okay, from downwards. So it could technically be that what we see as even, depending on how many nights are spent in the month of Ramadan in the end, it could be the other way around. Therefore, what you see as 22 could, if it's a shortened month, maybe is an odd number. So therefore, don't think like this. I'm just going to think about the odd ones, 21, 23, 25, 27, 29, and then I'll take a rest on the others. No, don't do that. At least if you do something at least every night, inshallah ta'ala, you can be assured that you've done something on Laylatul Qadr, which is better than 1,000 months.
SubhanAllah. You alluded to the point of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did i'tikaf in the last 10 nights. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that would be an indication that it could be on all the nights, or is i'tikaf something different? Is i'tikaf there to search for the last 10, the odd night, or is it all for the Laylatul Qadr, or is it just a act of ibadah by itself in which you seclude yourself?
Yeah. So i'tikaf is not something which is only allowed in Ramadan. It can be done any time during the year. So it's a separate act of ibadah. That's the first thing. And secondly, is that the Prophet ﷺ would do it every year and increase the amount of time he spent in the masjid in the last year of his life, ﷺ. So therefore, this gives you a greater chance of spending the time in the masjid, the most beloved place to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on the greatest night in the year. So, it's a separate act of ibadah on its own, of course, which is then offered in the last 10 nights. If you can't do 10 nights, then it's permitted for you to do something shorter than that. Maybe you want to do 5 days, as long as you intend that, and you can stay there. And in fact, Imam Nawawi rahimahullah, he says that if a person just intends from the time that he enters the masjid until he leaves, even that's the matter of hours, that counts as a partial i'tikaf.
Okay, Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Going on to another topic, inshallah. We've got a question here from, I think it's from Facebook. It says, can you do, no, it's actually from a brother called Salman. I think it's Dr. Salman actually, himself. He said, he asked the question, can one do their evening adhkar after Asr has started, but before you've actually prayed Asr itself?
Okay. So there's two things. There's the adhkar, which is made in the beginning time of the day and the ending time of the day. Now, ordinarily, a person will have prayed Fajr when it comes in, and then after that, you'll make your adhkar without delaying Fajr. And similarly, if a person is going to engage in ibadah, the primary thing for them to do is to offer their salah. That would be Salat al-Asr. And then make your adhkar, which can be done after Salat al-Asr. If a person did their adhkar after Salat al-Asr, the time came in, but before the prayer, then inshallah ta'ala is valid, because it's on the time and not conditional that you've actually offered the prayer. But if a person is going to, set aside some time for ibadah, then the best thing for you to do at that time is for you to offer your Salat al-Asr and then make your evening adhkar. Wallahu a'lam.
Before we go back to the questions, just a note to the brothers and sisters who are watching, inshallah. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop your questions in the Facebook and YouTube comments. If you're on Instagram, you can also do that there. It's on both Sheikh Wasim's pages, and it's also on the Islam 21C pages, inshallah. If you don't want to leave your name or details and want to keep it private, then you can also send an email to dailyqa@islam21c.com, inshallah. Moving on to the next question. This is quite an interesting question, actually. I think it's come up a few times on quite a few social media groups that I've seen myself, and that is regarding fundraising. And there's been a kind of a gimmick or an incentive that some of the not the charities, the fundraising what do you call it? The platforms have been doing, in which they say that. Can I take part? They give prizes to the charity who can raise the most amount of donors, not donations, but the most donors on the night, and they give like $5,000 or something dollars for the one who does the most. So someone's asked, can I take part in fundraising campaigns to ask as many people as I can for £1 for a chance to win a big donation prize for my charity? Lots of new platforms are doing this, but there are some people that's casting doubt on whether this is permissible or not.
Yeah, so first and foremost, when we have like money incentives, we have business, we have buying, All of these areas, the origin is that it is permissible. Okay, this is the starting point for all of us. And whenever we have new kind of ideas that come up in buying and selling, the origin is that it will be and it is permissible, unless we have something within the Sharia that says it's haram. Now, there are certain things which are clear for us, like gambling, like riba, which people may be thinking, is this a form of gambling? Now, then therefore we have to define what's gambling. This is a person paying something from their own pocket with a chance to win something. Now, these charity organizations who participate on this platform are not paying anything to enter into this, if you want to call it a competition. This is an ongoing kind of, in Ramadan, people want to raise money anyhow. So you go on and use these platforms to raise money for your organizations for a charity reason. And then it happens to be that you will use that money in a beneficial way. You're not entering into this situation to win $5,000, and even if you do win that $5,000, that's not something that goes into your pocket. This is a $5,000 that goes back into your charity, which will then be spent on the poor people and given to or support the projects that you are doing. So we can remove there's no gambling issue, okay? And people aren't using money for money, so there's no riba issue there. So from what I know about it, there's not a problem, inshallah ta'ala. Wallahu alam.
Inshallah. What about from the perspective of the platform itself? Because they're incentivizing it, and they are charging the people who are donating a fixed fee or a percentage of their donation of the £1 each time. Would it not be a problem for them, or is that still not an issue?
Yeah, so this, I mean, regardless of the competition, I think that these platforms have administrative fees, whether there's a competition anyway. So we're not talking about whether you're going to receive some prize money, but the whole scheme itself or the whole platform itself, is it allowed for you to use these platforms in order for you to gain money for your charities? Well, there are workers who set up these platforms. There is some administration work that needs to be taken care of. And as long as at the very beginning, the kind of rules and regulations, the rules and regulations about what you're signing up for is clear, then there's not a problem. There's nothing hidden. So there's clarity on that. So I don't see a problem as well.
Okay, Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Moving on to another question. This one's from YouTube. I'm not sure the names. Maybe if the people who are sending the questions through, they can pass through the names. But the question is regarding Salat al-Ishraq. I heard that it begins 10 to 15 minutes after sunrise, and it lasts for about 30 minutes. Have you got any clarifications regarding this?
Okay, so Salat al-Ishraq, or it's given other names, which is Salat al-Duha as well, the morning prayer. Now, the beginning time of it is correct in mentioning it's about 10 or so minutes after the sun has risen. The Prophet ﷺ said that, when the sun rises, qayd ramh, when the sun has risen, the distance of the length of a spear above the horizon, which is about 10 minutes. That is when is allowed for us to start praying, which, if you want to call it Salat al-Ishraq or Salat al-Duha, then you can do that. But you're not limited to half an hour afterwards. Salat al-Duha or Ishraq can be prayed up until a short while before Salat al-Dhuhr. Right.
Does it matter where we are on the? I mean, I know some people, they're a bit more particular. They're saying that yes, in the equatorial regions, i.e. in Makkah and that areas, the Ishraq is about 10 minutes. The height of the spear is about 10 minutes, 15 minutes after sunrise. But as you go further north, as you go further south, the time would take much longer, maybe half an hour.
Yeah.
Would that be an issue, or I've never come across anyone doing other than 10 or 15 minutes?
Yeah. So what you find on timetables is the timetables that you have, depending on the area that you're in, they will determine when the Ishraq is or when the sun has risen, and they should include that extra time that is needed to ensure that the sun has risen completely. So you can use the timetables that you have, inshallah ta'ala, to determine that time when you can start praying with Allah.
Next question, Sheikh. This is from Facebook, I believe. During this month of Ramadan, I began to call adhan for each of the salawat at home, and I'm trying to pray with them with my family. Should I try to call it at the time as the time comes in, or 5 minutes before we actually go to pray? I'm assuming that means not calling the adhan at the beginning of time,
I understand.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
before Jama'ah.
Yeah. So the origin is that the adhan is made when the time of the prayer actually enters. Okay. And at the time when you have masajid and whatnot, then you have, a short gap between that adhan being made and then the iqamah being made and then the prayer is established. The rules aren't so strict if you're at home, meaning that if you didn't do the adhan as the time entered and then you prayed like an hour later, it's not a problem. But the origin is that, you would say the adhan as the time enters. And then if you prayed, as I mentioned, half an hour or 45 minutes later, then that's not too much of an issue, inshallah ta'ala. If you happen to pray the adhan, or not pray the adhan, rather make the adhan an hour after the time had entered, again, that's not a problem. And you wanted to pray straight away, that you can do that as well, inshallah ta'ala. But I guess the most important thing is that you try to establish the adhan.
I mean, a follow-up question to this and that one, it's come very recently. So it's from a brother from YouTube, Mahmoud Ghaznawi. He says, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. What's the reward of praying Salat al-Duha, even at home? I'm assuming again, because the rewards given for praying after saying from Fajr and sitting in the masjid until that time.
Yeah, so there are a number of ahadith which state the reward of duha, in which one of them is that the Prophet ﷺ said that every morning we wake up, there is haqq to be given as charity on every limb on our bodies. And if you're unable to do that financially, then Salatul Duha yujzi an dhalika kulluh. Then Salatul Duha will suffice. You giving charity for the amount of limbs in your body. So there's a very important sunnah for us to do, inshallah ta'ala. Nah.
This is another question on the topic of parenthood and children. What would you advise parents of a child who's almost 12 years old, who misses many of his obligatory prayers? The parents encourage him as much as they can and they try to be wise and gentle. Is it sinful for the parents that they do not lightly hit or berate the child if they don't pray once they are 10 years old?
Yeah, okay. So we know the Prophet ﷺ told us in a sound hadith that murru awladakum bisalati ala sab'a. Encourage your children to pray from the age of 7, and then be a bit more, encourage them a bit more when they're 10 years old. Ideally, ordinarily, because a child's mind from a very young age will see one's parents praying. At the age of, when they start walking and moving around, children, they try to imitate their parents praying, making sujood and bowing down when they're ages of 2 and 3. So salah is not something very strange from them or strange for them. So when they're about, 7 years old, if you think they've had 5 or 6 years of seeing their parents praying, then suddenly you say to them, Yalla, let's pray together. Usually, it's not something strange. They will see this as the norm for them to pray. And so, most of the time they will want to pray with you. If they say, well, I'm doing something, don't press them. Okay, no problem. Next time. Then if you persist this, consistently, you're persisting and encouraging them to pray with you for another 3 years. So essentially, 8 or 9 years of their life, they're seeing their parents pray. If at the age of 10, they're like, I ain't praying with you, there's obviously an issue there. And it's very important that when we look at these ahadith, that you put a context to it. Just merely saying that, at 7, encourage them. And at 10, really be really harsh with them and, hit them to pray. If at the age of 10, that they're in a situation where they're averse to praying with you, it means that there's some issue there. There's an underlying issue for them to behave in such a manner. So what I would say is that, Islam doesn't push the children away from Islam, doesn't push, adults away. Islam is there to bring us close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what I would say is I would really encourage, to converse with the children, to sit with them, to explain with them, what's the situation, why you don't want to pray with us. And maybe, and this is important for us as parents to really get to the bottom and understand the minds of our children, why they are thinking the way that they're thinking, especially when their minds are kind of, they can still be molded and they still can be influenced in a good way. So it's not about just, rushing to get the cane and to whack them, and why aren't you praying with us? But it's also very important for us to understand, that why they're behaving like this, so we can, get to the bottom of what is really causing them to behave like this. Wallahu a'lam.
Barakallahu feekum, jazakallah khair. Sticking with the topic of children, there's another question here which says, if one is reading Quran and one's children keep interrupting them with questions intermittently, does one have to repeat the A'udhu Billah or the Isti'adha and the Basmala, or just resume from where one stopped?
Yeah. If it's a very brief kind of, they've asked you something, where is a little toy or something, or where is this, and just say, oh, it's over there, then you can continue reciting. There's no need for you to say A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem, nor Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. You can just continue with your recitation. If, however, there's a little gap and you can see that you've busied yourself with something separate, then it's good for you to maybe start with the Isti'adha. If you're in the middle of the chapter, there's no need for you to mention the Basmala. So it really depends on how long that is. But small little questions, you can just continue with the recitation, inshallah.
Again, carrying on a similar topic, but this is on a general topic, inshallah, is how does one improve their tadabbur of the Quran, and which Arabic tafsir books would you advise or recommend to go through to help in this tadabbur?
So, first and foremost, tadabbur, or to ponder over the meanings of the Quran, will only come about if you understand what you're reciting. Going through a translation of the meanings is somewhat limited in understanding the true intended meanings of the Book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what I would say is that it should be a big incentive for us to push ourselves to try and understand whatever we can from the Quran in the language that was revealed to us, because understanding is the key to us pondering over its meanings. Specific books with regards to tafsir, of course there's different approaches with tafsir, whether it's language or rulings or kind of the way it's explained. It doesn't have to be a vast tafsir for you to ponder over the meaning. Sometimes you just need to understand the verse in a different way. So, for example, Tafsir al-Sa'di, for example, is a very simple tafsir, and is a very simple approach in just giving you this is the intended meaning of the verse. And with regards to pondering, I think that the Quran will affect all of us in different ways, and it's not necessarily for you to be told you need to go to this verse to ponder over the Quran. It might be these verses are particularly close to your heart, and then you can think about these verses, and then if it's talking about, I don't know, what happens on Yawm al-Qiyamah, or even sort of tazalzala, that whoever does an atom's weight of good will see that, and whoever does an atom's weight of evil will see that, and then you ponder over that and you think about all the deeds that you do, and on Yawm al-Qiyamah, that everything major, small, hidden, seen, everything will be brought forward. As long as you understand what that verse means and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from you, then this can go a good way in helping you ponder over the meanings of the Quran. Wallahu. It's an always kind of as a sub-science, really, tadabbur al-Quran. Some books have been written on it. The kind of the guidelines, what represents or what is tadabbur, and how do you go about doing it without falling into things which maybe we shouldn't with regards to meanings. But no doubt, it's an important issue, the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions it, a few times in the Quran. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ Wallahu a'lam.
Barakallahu feekum, Shaykh, jazakallah khair. Moving on to the next question, inshallah. This is from my brother Jamil on YouTube. I think Jamil, mashallah, every day he's posting lots of questions, mashallah. Jazakallah khair for enjoying hopefully you enjoy our Q&As. His question is, after women giving birth, they go through postnatal bleeding.
Yeah.
If one was to fast, thinking they have stopped and recovered, but later on they realize they have not, were the fast kept, or is it accepted, or should they fast those days again afterwards?
Okay. So when a woman gives birth, she goes through a state called nifas, which is postpartum bleeding, which is a maximum of 40 days, according to the majority of ulama. 40 days. Now, there may be times during these 40 days in which after, let's say after 20 days, she stops any bleeding. She has a ghusl. She considers herself pure, for example. She has a ghusl. She will pray. And if she's in Ramadan, she will fast. Now, if at any time during this day she sees that there is a return of blood, she will consider this as a continuation of the nifas, of the postpartum bleeding. So if this occurs at any time before the 40 days, the discharge of blood, then she will stop praying and that she won't fast because it's within the 40. Anything beyond the 40 days, let's say that the blood just continued all the way up to 40 days, she will perform a ghusl on that day, 40 days since the day of birth, and she'll start praying and fasting. Now, even if there's a discharge after that, she will consider istihada, she'll consider that chronic bleeding, and she will fast and pray as usual. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Moving on to the next question. There's quite a lot of questions here. Just trying to put some in a bit of consistent order, but okay, here's a series of questions from the same person. Please, can the following questions be raised? If a man is praying Taraweeh by himself using the Mus'haf, can he read out loud so that others can listen, specifically the man's wife who is in the same room and wants to listen but is unable to join the prayer, i.e., again, she's in her menstruating or she's in nifas?
Yeah, if we've got quite a few questions, we'll try to go through this quite quickly, inshallah. So
the next question,
essentially, that's absolutely no problem. Let him recite the Quran, and he recites it so she hears. In the night prayer, you recite it so you can hear yourself, so that's no problem, inshallah.
And his second question is, can that woman who's unable to pray Taraweeh with her husband, but is listening to her husband reading from Mus'haf, correct any mistakes he makes? And if so, can the corrections be said out, or must the woman say SubhanAllah or clap, assuming that not only the husband can hear and there are none or ghair mahrams present?
Yeah, so there's not mahrams who are present.
Yeah, no mahrams present. No non-mahrams present.
No, so it's just him and her.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so if he's reading from the Mus'haf, I would assume that inshallah there shouldn't be too many mistakes. However, she shouldn't be there. The purpose of her there is to hold them, upon the view that she's allowed to recite the Quran, which inshallah she is. If she's on a monthly cycle, she shouldn't be touching the Mus'haf. There should be between her and the Mus'haf a barrier. So if she's wearing gloves or the Mus'haf's in a stand and she's turning the pages with something like a pen or something like that, that's fine, inshallah ta'ala. So in essence, that's not a problem, inshallah ta'ala. Wallahu a'lam.
Okay, and their final question on this one was, it's what should be done in Taraweeh prayer once the last surah of the Quran is finished, i.e. the Khatam. What is the sunnah? What should be said or done by the Imam?
Yeah, so with regards to the dua of the Khatam of the Quran, upon completing, the ulama have differed over the authenticity of this particular practice. There are some of the companions who did that, and then there are some others who did not, because it wasn't the direct practice of the Prophet ﷺ. Some of them are of the view that you don't do that. Okay, so there's a well-known difference of opinion on that. If somebody takes that view, then they're entitled to that. There's some of the companions who did do that, and if they don't do that, going back to the actions of the Prophet ﷺ, they would have reason to not do that as well.
Inshallah. One more question here. This is from a brother called Hamza from Cardiff. If I take an oath in which I state that I will go to the shop today, but due to unforeseen circumstances, the shop closed early or I had a car accident, and I couldn't go to the shop, is my oath broken and do I have to?
Yeah, I answered this question yesterday, mashallah.
Oh, okay. Same question, yeah?
It's the very same question. What I said was that I don't know why you're making an oath going to the shop. Okay, I mean, there are certain circumstances. Maybe you forgot to buy something, and maybe your wife is nagging you, and you haven't gone, and you say, okay, wallahi, I'm going to go to the shop today out of anger. Then you've made a nice for you to go, and then if you go, you've made your way there, and you find it closed. Then at least you went out. You've fulfilled what you needed to fulfill because you made the effort to complete it, and something beyond your control, stopped you being able to fulfill that. Allah knows best.
It is 7:30, but I'll just give one last question, inshallah. It's from a sister, Ghazali Siddiqui, if you don't mind, Sheikh, that is. In the hadith, it is mentioned to pray 4 sunnah after dhuhr to make the fire be prohibited for you. Should these 4 units be prayed as 2 units of 2 rak'ah, or 1 unit of 4 rak'ah? Jazakallah.
There's a hadith which is in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad, that the Prophet ﷺ would pray the 4 rak'at before and after dhuhr as one set of 4, not separating them. The ulama have differed over its authenticity. Majority of them state that they are prayed in 2s. However, if one prayed it in 4, on the assumption that the hadith is hasan, then it is permissible to do that as well. Wallahu a'lam.
Barakallahu feekum, Sheikh. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. And I think that's the end of the show today, inshallah. It's 7:30. It's going past 7:30. Again, yes, Jazakallah khair to Sheikh Wasim for helping us answer these questions. And Jazakallah khair to you, brothers and sisters, for joining us and sending all these questions through. We hope you answered most of your questions. I know there are a few more still to come, but if anything's missed, then tomorrow we have Sheikh Abdurrahim McCarthy. Please join us tomorrow again at 7 p.m. inshallah. You can send us questions by email, and we'll take those questions and we'll answer them for you tomorrow, inshallah, from the beginning of the show. For the rest of you, inshallah, as well, if you are enjoying these shows, they're coming from the online masjid platform here at Islam21C. Please do go to the online masjid.islam21c.com, and you can subscribe and enjoy 20 or more plus series, 300 plus episodes from a variety of beautiful lectures and so forth, inshallah. And as well, this is the last 10 nights, and if you can, and if you are able to, please help us carry on these services and this work that we're doing, inshallah, by going to donate.islam21c.com. And inshallah, we hope to see you tomorrow. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
دعائي وابتهالي شاهد لي بافتقاري.
Islam21C brings to you 20 brand new unique series from renowned and respected shuyukh from across the globe, with one mission: to bring Muslims together in an online congregation never seen before in history, and lift the spirit of this Ramadan to bring us closer to Allah more than ever.
Man is left with no way of knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala other than by virtue of his names and his majestic attributes that he gave himself and gifted humanity with.
We want to raise our children in the most perfect way, and perfection belongs to Allah. If a person comes to you whose religion and character pleases you, then get your daughters married to him.
It's not going to be easy, but Allah never leaves you alone. That's the essence of what we can get from the Prophet's life.
It's my pleasure, it's my honor to introduce Quran recitation from the Imam Jazari Institute.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله.
Now just think with me about the verse where Allah says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُمْسِكُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ أَن تَزُولَا.
We'll start with an easy one for you, Sheikh, inshallah. Can I postpone Taraweeh until the last third of the night?
Yeah, so essentially the night prayer is offered after Salat al-Isha, and you have until Salat al-Fajr to offer that.
We're all linked together in this. And that's really what empathy is. I mean, empathy in Arabic is like ataf, atuf, to tilt towards, to move towards.
Conveying insults. You know, the Arabs had a saying, "Ma shatamak illa man ballagak." The one who insulted you is the one who conveyed the insult to you.
There can be no more greater relationship of a husband and a wife than the Prophet ﷺ and Khadija.
We don't just leave that piece of knowledge that we've received just there on the page.
This virus is a mercy for us Muslims, because the Prophet ﷺ, he tells us in a hadith that when you're afflicted with something, it's an expiation of your sins.
Down to earth like gravity, imagine me trying to turn my dreams to reality.
Allah Jalla wa Ala mentioned those who come in the front. وَالسَّابِقُونَ السَّابِقُونَ. They are the most successful people.
How we can embed the love of the Quran in the hearts of the young generation.
Welcome to the online masjid. Sign up now for your personal access to 300 plus free on-demand video content.